A millionaire forced his son to marry a garbage collector to teach him a lesson. On the wedding day, everyone was stunned by what she asked for in return. The roar of a high-powered engine reverberated through the bustling city streets. Nathan, only 30 years old, was the sole heir to his family's massive real estate empire, a company his father, Lawrence, had built from the ground up. Behind the wheel of his flashy red sports car, Nathan hardly acknowledged the pedestrians who hurried to get out of his way, visibly startled. His perfectly tailored Italian suit and gold wristwatch oozed wealth and entitlement. As he pushed the gas pedal, blatantly ignoring the stoplights, a smug thought crossed his mind. These people should be grateful I'm adding a touch of class to this rundown area. I don't get why my father insists on keeping business here. He was convinced the entire district should be demolished and rebuilt into something grander. Meanwhile, Ashley, a 25-year-old woman with rough, calloused hands from years of hard labor, was making her way down the narrow sidewalk, pushing a recycling cart. Her tired, determined eyes scanned the ground for anything she could collect. Her worn-out, threadbare clothes starkly contrasted with the wealth Nathan flaunted so effortlessly. Preoccupied with thoughts of her ailing grandmother's health, Ashley didn't notice the speeding car coming her way. If I don't make enough this week, how am I supposed to afford Grandma's medicine? I can't let her suffer. She's all I have left, she worried, the stress of her financial struggles weighing heavily on her mind. She'd been doing all she could to care for her grandmother, but it seemed like no matter how hard she worked, it was never enough. The sudden screech of tires jolted Ashley back to reality. Her heart pounded as she leapt backward, her recycling cart tipping over and spilling cans and papers across the street. Nathan slammed on the brakes, his car stopping mere inches from her. For a split second, everything seemed to pause. Ashley's frightened eyes locked with Nathan's furious gaze. Then the silence shattered with Nathan's booming voice. "You idiot! Look at what you've done. You almost scratched my car with that junk you're hauling around. Do you have any clue how much this car is worth? You'd never earn enough in your pathetic life to afford it," Nathan spat angrily at the woman. Lawrence, his father, had just left a business meeting and was making his way home when he heard the sound of screeching tires. From a distance, he recognized his son's car and saw him in the middle of a heated argument with a sanitation worker. Worry etched across his face as he hurried toward them. What went wrong? How did my son turn out so heartless? Lawrence thought, anguish gripping him. His mother and I raised him better than this. I have to step in before things spiral further. With fury written all over his face, Nathan slammed his car door shut and stormed towards the woman. His face was flushed with rage, veins bulging on his forehead as he advanced. The young woman, visibly shaken, tried to collect her belongings, but froze when she saw the intense fury in Nathan's eyes. "You almost touched my car with that filthy mess you're dragging around. I should sue you for emotional and material damages. People like you don't belong in this city. I'll be sure to talk to the mayor and get these streets cleared of people like you," Nathan barked. Lawrence, now close enough to hear everything, felt disgust wash over him. His anger surged, and without thinking, he strode forward, towering over both Nathan and the young woman. His normally calm expression was replaced with one of shame and disbelief. With a quick movement, he grabbed his son's arm, spinning him around to face him. "That's enough, Nathan." Lawrence's voice boomed, the fury in his tone drawing the attention of passers-by. "How dare you speak to someone like that? Have you lost your mind?" His words echoed down the street, leaving Nathan momentarily stunned. After a beat, Nathan pulled his arm free and adjusted his expensive suit, trying to regain his composure. "You don't get it, Dad," Nathan said defiantly, his voice rising again. "She nearly ruined my car. People like her have no business being in the way of people like us. Why are you defending her?" Lawrence felt his stomach churn at the sound of his son's words. He glanced over at Ashley, standing frozen, her face pale, surrounded by the remnants of her shattered pride. Turning back to Nathan, Lawrence could hardly comprehend what he was hearing from his own child. Decent people? You really think your actions reflect decency? Take a good look at yourself, Nathan. Look at who you've turned into. A man who looks down on others because of their social standing isn't much of a man, he said firmly. Feeling cornered, Nathan did what he always did. He lashed out. He threw his hand toward Ashley, his expression full of disdain. You want me to respect this? Someone who lives off the scraps of society? Dad, we've built an empire. We can't associate with people like her. They're the reason our communities are falling apart. If it were up to me, I'd clear them all out of this city. Lawrence shut his eyes for a brief moment, as if trying to block out the sting of Nathan's words. When he opened them, his resolve was set. He stepped toward his son, determined to confront him. Listen closely, Nathan, because I'm only going to say this once. Your attitude disgusts me. You've become the exact type of person your mother and I have always despised, arrogant, heartless, and completely oblivious to the worth of other people. This woman is a human being, Lawrence said in a voice that was low but packed with authority. He then turned his attention to Ashley. What is your name, dear? He asked softly. Ashley, still shaken, replied with a trembling voice, My name's Ashley Morgan, sir. I'm Lawrence, Ashley. I'm sorry for my son's behavior. I swear, I'll make sure he never acts like this again. He's going to learn how to treat people the right way, he vowed. Nathan tried to interrupt, but Lawrence raised his hand, stopping him. No, you'll listen to me now. I've clearly made mistakes in raising you, and it's time to set things right. From this moment on, you have a decision to make. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Ashley, momentarily sidelined, watched with a mix of fear and curiosity. Lawrence's voice grew stronger as he pressed on. You will marry this young woman, Ashley, and through her, you will learn what it means to be humble and compassionate. You'll live as she does, work as she works, and maybe, just maybe, you'll understand the real value of people, Lawrence said firmly. Nathan, stunned, cut him off. Or what? You can't be serious, Dad. Without missing a beat, Lawrence's expression remained firm. Or you'll lose it all. Every cent of the family's money, no car, no apartment, nothing. The weight of his words hung in the air. Nathan's eyes darted between his father and Ashley, disbelief and anger creeping onto his face. But then a sneer appeared on his lips. He laughed, a cold, heartless laugh that sent a chill through Ashley. You think you can manipulate me into this? Marry her? He gestured toward Ashley with disgust. I'd rather live on the streets than stoop this low. You must be bluffing. Lawrence's steady gaze didn't falter. This is not a bluff, Nathan. It's a promise. You've got 24 hours to decide. Marry her or lose everything. There's no in-between. Nathan's laughter turned slightly hysterical as he spun on his heel. This is insane. I'm leaving. Call me when you've come to your senses. He walked away, stopping by his car to cast one last look of contempt at Ashley. And you, beggar, be glad I'm not suing you. Consider yourself lucky. With that, he climbed into his car and sped off, leaving behind a drained Lawrence and a shaken Ashley. The roar of the engine eventually faded, but the air remained thick with unresolved tension, like the stillness before a storm. Minutes later, Lawrence marched into his office, determination in every step. He immediately picked up the phone, dialing with firm, almost frantic fingers. As he waited for a response, his eyes drifted to the family portraits lining the walls, reminders of better days that felt painfully distant. Finally, the head of his legal team answered, and Lawrence skipped the pleasantries. Prepare the documents now. I want the threat to disinherit Nathan legally binding. He has 30 days to marry Ashley Morgan, or he loses everything. His voice was firm, though his grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles whitened. And add a clause, he continued, something that ensures he truly lives this, no faking it for convenience. The lawyer paused briefly before speaking. Are you absolutely sure about this, sir? It's a pretty extreme step. Lawrence closed his eyes, feeling the weight of exhaustion and frustration bearing down on him. It has to be done. My son needs to learn his lesson before it's too late. As Lawrence went over the legal matters, the office door flew open, and Nathan stormed in, his face twisted in anger and disbelief. He had come back, unable to fathom that his father was actually carrying out the threat. His gaze locked onto Lawrence, who was on the phone, and he advanced angrily, gesturing wildly. "Dad, you can't be serious. This is insane." Nathan's voice bounced off the walls of the office. "You're really going to throw away everything we've built for this family because of some random garbage man?" Lawrence put his hand over the phone's receiver, his expression a blend of disappointment and determination. "Nathan, it's that exact attitude that shows me why this is necessary. You must comprehend that the value of people is not dependent on money." Sensing the gravity of the situation, Nathan switched gears, his tone softened, and he moved closer, almost pleading. "Dad, please, let's talk this out. I know you want me to be more compassionate, and I can be. We could donate money, or start some kind of charity. It doesn't have to go down like this." Lawrence studied his son's face, searching for any genuine sign of change. For a brief moment he hesitated, wondering if Nathan might really be willing to turn things around. But then he remembered the way Nathan had spoken on the street, the cold arrogance in his voice. His resolve hardened. "No, Nathan. Words aren't enough this time. You need to live it to experience it firsthand. It's the only way you'll truly understand." Lawrence turned back to the phone. "Have the papers ready by this afternoon. I want everything finalized as soon as possible." Nathan, realizing his final attempt had failed, erupted again, his anger flaring. He grabbed a statue from the desk and threw it against the wall, the crash reverberating through the room. "You'll regret this. I'm your only son, your heir. You can't treat me this way." Lawrence jolted upright, his phone slipping from his grasp as he recoiled from the sudden outburst. His gaze locked on Nathan, filled with a deep sense of betrayal and disappointment. "I'm doing this because you're my son. I can't watch you turn into this person I don't recognize." Lawrence's voice was steady, but each word felt like a blow to Nathan. Stunned, Nathan took a step back, at a loss for words. As the intensity of the moment swelled, Lawrence felt a sharp pain spread through his chest, his breath growing shallow. Instinctively, he clutched his chest, his hand trembling. "Dad?" Nathan's tone shifted abruptly from anger to fear as he watched his father stumble. "Dad, what's happening?" he cried out, desperation in his voice. Lawrence attempted to speak, but his words failed him. His vision began to blur, and his knees buckled. The last thing Lawrence heard was Nathan's frantic cry for help. Then, everything became a blur. The next thing he knew, paramedics were rushing him to the hospital. The minutes dragged on like hours in the sterile, fluorescent-lit hallway. Still wearing his crumpled suit, Nathan paced anxiously, his earlier pride washed away by sheer worry. The smell of disinfectant and the beeping of machines only added to the suffocating tension. Doctors and nurses hurried past, glancing sympathetically at the young man, clearly overwhelmed with concern. Nathan had asked repeatedly about his father's condition, but all he received were half answers and assurances that the attending doctor would come to speak with him soon. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a doctor approached. a man in his mid-40s, his eyes tired but kind. Nathan's pulse quickened as he saw the doctor's serious expression. "Mr. Nathan," the doctor began in a calm but somber tone, "your father's condition is critical. He's had a severe heart attack, and we're doing all we can, but the next 48 hours are crucial." Nathan felt his legs weaken, his hand gripping the wall for support. "But he's going to pull through, right? He's always been so strong. He's Lawrence. He always—" Nathan trailed off, unable to finish. The doctor placed a reassuring hand on Nathan's shoulder. "We're giving it our all, but I need to be honest with you. It's touch and go right now. Your father is in the ICU, and we need to keep a close watch on him. I recommend preparing yourself for all possible outcomes." The doctor's words hit Nathan like a blow to the gut. For the first time in his life, he felt completely helpless. His wealth, his power, none of it could change the situation. He just nodded, unable to find the words. While Nathan was lost in thought, Mr. Wayne, the family attorney, appeared in the hospital hallway. The doctor left Nathan with the lawyer, promising to do everything possible for his father. A few moments later, Mr. Wayne faced Nathan with a serious look. "Mr. Nathan, your father is stable, but he's still unconscious. However, there's something important you need to know." The lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a legal document. "Before the accident, your father insisted I revise his will immediately. The terms he sets are legally binding." Nathan felt his heart drop. "What? This can't be legal. He can't make me marry someone." Mr. Wayne adjusted his glasses, his tone unyielding. "I'm afraid he can. You have 30 days to marry Miss Ashley, or you'll lose your entire inheritance. That includes your role in the company, your bank accounts, properties, everything." Nathan collapsed into the chair, his mind racing. This is a nightmare. There has to be a way out of this. The lawyer paused before continuing. "There isn't. If you don't marry her, you'll forfeit everything, including your control of the family business. I'm confident your father will recover, but my advice is to follow his wishes. If you don't, you won't even be able to keep your position." The lawyer's tone left no room for doubt. The next day, still overwhelmed by worry about his father, Nathan found himself driving his high-end car through the narrow rundown streets of a poor neighborhood. His face was etched with a mixture of disgust and discomfort. As he dodged potholes, the thought of marrying someone who worked as a garbage collector seemed unfathomable to him. How on earth does my dad expect me to survive in this dump? This is beyond harsh, even as some twisted life lesson, Nathan thought angrily. He had been given Ashley's address, but she was nowhere to be found when he arrived. After wandering aimlessly for a few minutes, he finally noticed a small, worn-down playground nearby. In the middle of a bunch of scruffy-looking kids was Ashley. Nathan pulled up, parking the car with a heavy sigh before reluctantly stepping out, his designer suit feeling like a shield against the poverty surrounding him. He approached cautiously, watching Ashley interact with the kids. She was smiling, kneeling down to help a little girl tie her shoes. The sight threw him off. Ashley's warmth and caring nature were obvious, clashing with the image he had built up of her in his mind. For a moment, Nathan stood frozen, his usual arrogance cracking in the face of her genuine kindness. He shook his head, trying to shake off these unwelcome feelings. "Don't fall for it, Nathan. She's probably just putting on a show. People like her always have an angle." With a deep breath, he straightened his posture, putting on his usual mask of disdain, and finally walked toward the group. The kids went quiet the second they saw him, their eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and nervousness. Sensing the shift in mood, Ashley turned to see who had caused it, her face going pale when she saw Nathan. Clearing his throat, suddenly feeling uneasy under their stares, Nathan addressed Ashley in a stiff voice. "Miss Ashley, I need to speak with you. In private." Ashley hesitated, her eyes hardening with a blend of suspicion and frustration. Slowly standing, she positioned herself protectively between Nathan and the children. "I don't have anything to say to you. Please, leave. You're scaring the kids," she replied firmly. The tension was thick in the air, and Nathan could feel the hostile looks from people starting to gather around. He took a small step forward, lowering his voice, trying to sound less intimidating. "Look, I know we didn't start off on the right foot, but something's come up and we need to talk. It's important." As he spoke, more people closed in, forming a tight circle. Their expressions were cold and distrustful, some whispering to each other, others clenching their fists. A large man stepped forward, his voice dripping with menace. "Hey, aren't you that rich guy who embarrassed Ashley the other day? What do you think you're doing here? Looking for trouble?" the man asked, his words a thinly veiled threat. Nathan felt a shiver of fear crawl up his spine. He was cornered, and for the first time in his life, his wealth and status offered no protection. He glanced at Ashley, a wordless plea in his eyes. The circle of angry people tightened around him, their whispers of frustration and thinly veiled threats unmistakable. His heart pounded, and he realized he was completely out of his depth. His voice shook as he made a final attempt. "Please, Ashley, just give me 5 minutes of your time. After that, I'll go, I swear." Ashley stood there, watching the situation unfold, her expression a mix of conflicting emotions. The hurt and anger from how Nathan had treated her before still simmered inside, but the desperation in his eyes and the clear fear in his posture triggered a flicker of sympathy she couldn't ignore. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes briefly before stepping forward, positioning herself between Nathan and the menacing crowd. "Stop! Don't hurt him," she commanded, her voice strong and steady, surprising everyone, including herself. "We're not violent people. We won't stoop to his level," she said firmly, turning to face Nathan with a hard stare. "You've got 5 minutes, not a second more." Nathan felt a wave of relief wash over him, but he remained stiff, trying to salvage what little dignity he had left. He shot the crowd a disdainful glance before following Ashley to a quieter spot in the park. The children nearby watched with curiosity, some still clutching their worn-out toys. Once they were far enough from the crowd, Nathan spoke, his voice carrying a mix of pride and unease. "Look, I didn't want to come back here, but something happened." He paused, gauging her reaction. "My father, he had a heart attack." He hesitated, waiting for some sign of sympathy from Ashley, but her face remained unreadable. Frustrated, he continued. "Before that, he changed his will, and now, I need to marry you." Ashley blinked in disbelief, her jaw dropping in shock. For a moment, she was speechless, trying to wrap her head around the absurdity of what he was saying. When she finally spoke, her voice was full of indignation and disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me. Is this some kind of twisted joke?" Her response irritated Nathan, who tightened his face. "Trust me, I wish it was. But it's the truth. If I don't marry you within 30 days, I lose everything. My company, the money, all of it," he explained, his voice strained as he tried to keep his frustration under control. "Look, I know things between us didn't exactly start off great, but maybe this is a chance for both of us." "You'd never have to worry about money again," he added, hoping to sound convincing. Ashley felt anger flare up inside her, her fists tightening. "An opportunity? You think you can just waltz in here after publicly humiliating me and offer me money like that's supposed to fix everything? I'm not for sale, mister. My self-respect is worth more than every dollar you've got," she snapped, stepping toward him with a fire in her eyes. Nathan instinctively stepped back, taken aback by the fierceness of her reaction. He wasn't used to being turned down, especially by someone he thought was beneath his social class. His expression twisted, caught between anger and confusion. "You don't understand," he pressed on, his tone more urgent now. "I'm offering you a life you could never have otherwise. Imagine what you could do with all that money." He gestured around, as if trying to paint a picture. "You wouldn't have to wear those worn-out clothes anymore or scrape by picking up trash. You could live a life of luxury." Ashley felt a lump form in her throat from the frustration, but she fought back the tears. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself before speaking again. "You really don't get it, do you? It's not about the money. It's about respect, about dignity." She stopped mid-sentence, her face suddenly draining of color. Nathan followed her gaze and noticed an elderly woman walking toward them slowly, leaning on a cane. Her frail body moved with effort, her breathing heavy. Ashley rushed over, momentarily forgetting about Nathan. "Grandma, you shouldn't be out here. You need to be resting," Ashley said, her voice full of concern. The older woman gave her a weak smile and then looked curiously at Nathan. "And who's this young man, dear? Is he bothering you?" the elderly woman asked, her voice soft but with a protective edge. Ashley shook her head and shot a sharp glance at Nathan. "No, Grandma. He was just about to leave," she said firmly, before turning to Nathan, her voice now a tense whisper. "You need to go. Now." But Nathan didn't move. His eyes were locked on Ashley's grandmother, noticing the shaking in her hands and the pale shade of her skin. A thought began to take root in his mind, one that made him uneasy, but might be his only way out. He cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice casual. "Your grandmother doesn't look too well. Is she getting the right care?" Ashley shot him a sharp look, her eyes filled with suspicion. "That's none of your business. Please leave," she snapped. But Nathan could see the worry in her eyes, the fear she was trying to hide. In that instant, he knew he'd found his leverage. Despite Ashley's objections, Nathan followed the two women into their cramped apartment. His cold gaze took in every detail of the shabby, depressing space. The grandmother's room was tidy, but the air of poverty and despair was unmistakable. While Ashley tended to her grandmother with love and care, Nathan felt a twisted smile tug at his lips. He'd discovered her weak spot. Clearing his throat again, he caught Ashley's attention. "We need to talk. Alone." In the tight hallway, Nathan leaned closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Your grandmother won't last long without proper care, will she? I can fix that. The best doctors, the finest hospitals. All you have to do is marry me and do exactly what I say," he said, watching the shock spread across Ashley's face, but remaining unmoved. Ashley recoiled, horrified. "You're a monster. How can you use my grandmother's life like this?" Nathan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman, and this is the best deal you're going to get. Your grandmother lives, and you do what I want." Ashley felt the crushing weight of her choice. She glanced at the room where her frail grandmother lay and felt tears sting her eyes. Turning back to Nathan, defeated, she asked, "If I agree, do you promise to save my grandmother? She's all I have. If you want me to marry you, I need to know you'll help her." Nathan was taken aback. She could have asked for riches, comfort, anything, but all she wanted was to save her grandmother. Recovering quickly, he nodded, a cruel satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. "Of course, she'll have the best care money can buy, and you, my dear, will be the perfect, obedient wife." Ashley closed her eyes, feeling like she was selling her soul. "But know this," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "Every moment of this marriage, I will hate you with everything I have." Nathan let out a quiet, chilly laugh that sent a shiver down Ashley's spine. Love, hate, it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that she would do exactly what he wanted. While they were explaining the situation to Ashley's grandmother, Nathan was already plotting how this marriage would serve his selfish ambitions. Not only would it save his inheritance, but it would also give him a way to control and manipulate her. At that same moment, across town in a hospital room, Lawrence woke from his coma. His eyes slowly opened, adjusting to the light in the room. With unexpected strength, he grabbed the doctor's arm, his voice raspy but insistent. "Nathan, the wedding. I need to see it happen." Little did Lawrence know that his plan to teach his son a lesson was about to spiral into something far darker and more dangerous than he could have imagined. A few weeks later, the church was filled with lavish flower arrangements, a stark contrast to the bride waiting in the back. Ashley nervously fidgeted with her old, worn-out dress. The seams had been mended and the fabric had faded, a deliberate choice for this day. Her hands shook slightly as she touched the simple necklace her grandmother had given her, the only piece of jewelry she wore. Outside, the murmur of the city's elite filled the air, eager to witness the unusual wedding of Nathan, one of the wealthiest men around. Ashley closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "I'm doing this for Grandma. She's already received the treatment and is safe. I just need to keep my end of the bargain and make it through," she whispered to herself. At the altar, Nathan stood in his perfectly tailored suit, his pale face tense. His restless eyes scanned the crowd, stopping briefly on his father, Lawrence, who sat in the front row. Lawrence's unexpected presence, fresh out of the hospital, only heightened the pressure. Though released, he still needed ongoing medical care due to his fragile condition. Nathan tugged at his tie, which felt like it was tightening around his neck. His mind raced with schemes and fears. What if she changes her mind at the last second? Everything I've worked for will be ruined, he thought, his heart pounding. As the wedding march began, everyone turned their heads toward the entrance of the church. Ashley made her way down the aisle alone, each step deliberate and hesitant, as if she was caught between wanting to run and forcing herself to keep moving. The crowd whispered in shock as they noticed her shabby, worn-out clothes in place of the traditional wedding dress. Their murmurs were like sharp pinpricks to her ears, but she held her head high, her focus fixed on Nathan. Ashley had intentionally chosen to wear her everyday outfit, a deliberate statement to remind Nathan of the importance of respecting those with less wealth. He was going to marry her just as he had first seen her. As she passed Lawrence, she caught a glimpse of his startled expression with what looked like disdain. Her heart pounded as she finally reached the altar, the weight of her decision heavy in her chest. She glanced at Nathan, noticing the unease and calculation flickering in his eyes. "Stay strong," Ashley reminded herself. "This is for Grandma, for her recovery. You can bear this for her." The priest began the ceremony, his voice echoing through the quiet room. Nathan and Ashley stood side by side, yet the emotional distance between them felt vast. As the priest spoke about love and commitment, Ashley's mind drifted to the recent weeks. She thought about her grandmother's treatment, the top-notch doctors, the costly medicines, everything Nathan had provided, just as he promised. The nights she spent watching her grandma slowly regain her strength and inching toward recovery filled her with gratitude. However, her anger toward Nathan and the mess she was in at the time tainted her gratitude. Lawrence observed everything from his seat, his gaze bouncing between his son and Ashley, a cryptic look on his face. He muttered under his breath, Maybe there's hope for him yet. Ashley made the right call, wearing that outfit. It's a lesson in showing Nathan that people are worth more than their appearance or wealth. Then the pivotal moment came. The priest turned to Nathan and asked, "Do you take Ashley as your lawful wife, to love and honor her, in sickness and in health, for richer or poor? Until death do you part?" Time seemed to stand still. Nathan felt the weight of every gaze, especially his father's. He looked at Ashley, his eyes taking in her worn, patched clothes. A flicker of disgust crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with indifference. How could she come dressed like this? She's doing this to embarrass me, he thought, his emotions a mix of anger and contempt. But when he locked eyes with Ashley, instead of seeing defiance, he saw fear. A raw, undeniable fear of being rejected right there in front of everyone. For a moment, Nathan faltered. The vulnerability in her gaze threw him off balance, making him second-guess himself. But then he quickly remembered his plan. The inheritance. Everything that was on the line. A wave of sadness and disappointment washed over Ashley's face as she waited for his response. This wasn't some fairy tale, and there wouldn't be a happy ending. Both of them had made their choices, though for entirely different reasons. In a voice that was calm but completely void of any real feeling, Nathan finally said, "I do." Minutes later, the reception hall sparkled with wealth and extravagance, a sharp contrast to the bride's plain appearance. Ashley, still in her modest and patched dress, moved through the crowd like she was invisible, detached from the buzzing conversations and the sound of champagne glasses clinking. In the midst of businessmen and members of high society, her eyes kept looking for Nathan. Spotting a chance, she gathered her courage and approached him, her heart racing in her chest. Nathan noticed her coming, struggling to conceal his annoyance. "Nathan," she started, her voice steady in a surprising way, "I wanted to thank you for arranging the care for my grandmother." "She's recovering well," Ashley continued after a brief pause to collect herself. "But I also wanted to say goodbye. I can't keep pretending like this." Her hands shook as she extended an envelope toward Nathan. "Here's my explanation and my decision to forgo any claim to your wealth." Nathan took the envelope, his irritation mixed with confusion. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" Ashley met his gaze directly, her voice brimming with emotion. "Read the letter, Nathan. Maybe then you'll understand what really matters." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving a speechless Nathan in her wake. His hands trembled as he opened the envelope, unfolding the letter carefully. As his eyes scanned the words, his face shifted from frustration to disbelief, and then to bewilderment. He read the letter aloud, stunned by what was happening. "Dear Nathan, first, I want to sincerely thank you for helping my grandmother. Your generosity, even if it was forced, saved her life, and for that, I will always be grateful. But I can't stay in this marriage we've arranged. From the day we crossed paths, it was crystal clear how much you looked down on me, on people with less, and on my circumstances. All you saw were my shabby clothes and the lack of material things. What you missed is that a person's real wealth isn't measured by money, but by their character. I didn't grow up with much, but I was raised with love and strong values. My grandmother taught me that honesty, hard work, and kindness are life's true riches. These are the treasures I carry, and no amount of money can buy them. You only wanted to marry me to secure your inheritance, but in doing so, you showed me a level of emptiness in your soul that no fortune could ever hide. The way you treat those you think are beneath you reveals your own insecurities and lack of integrity. So, I'm stepping away from this. I don't need or want your wealth. Instead of being in your company and surrounded by luxury, I'd much rather live an honest, modest life. I hope this experience makes you realize the true worth of people, regardless of their financial standing. Real nobility isn't in a name or a bank account, it's in your actions and your heart. Maybe one day you'll understand that respect and kindness are far more valuable than money. Until then, I wish you peace and hope you learn to see past appearances. Sincerely, Ashley. As Nathan read the letter, his expression changed. Anger, confusion, and finally something that looked like shame. He glanced around, suddenly aware of the guests who had begun to notice. Lawrence walked up, seeing the troubled look on his son's face. "What's going on, Nathan? What's in that letter? Where's Ashley?" he asked with concern. Nathan stared at his father, his voice shaking slightly. "She left. She gave it all up. She said she'd rather live a simple life than be with me." In that moment, for the first time in his life, Nathan felt the weight of his choices and his behavior. Ashley's words had touched something deep inside him, something he hadn't realized was there. Without another word, he turned and headed toward the exit, leaving his father confused. His thoughts raced. What have I done? Who have I become? Nathan found himself running through the city streets, his expensive suit wrinkled, his polished shoes now hurting his feet, unaccustomed to the long walk. As evening crept in, the chilly wind cut through him, sending shivers down his spine. He walked through dimly lit back streets and forgotten alleys, parts of town he never imagined himself stepping into. His eyes darted around anxiously, desperately hoping to spot Ashley, his wife. The harshness of street life hit him hard. The stench of trash, the faint wail of sirens in the distance, and the wary glances from strangers passing by. It was overwhelming. How can anyone survive like this? How could she leave the comfort and money I offered to live this way? And to think I treated her as if she were beneath me, he thought, feeling a mixture of guilt and confusion. After what felt like endless hours of searching, Nathan finally caught sight of a familiar figure rifling through a trash can in a narrow alley. His heart raced as he recognized Ashley, still dressed in the tattered clothes from their wedding day. Slowly, he approached her, watching in disbelief as she expertly sorted through the garbage. He watched as she found a half-eaten sandwich, and for a second, he thought she might eat it right away. To his amazement, she turned and handed the sandwich to a homeless man sitting nearby. The man accepted it with a grateful smile, and Ashley went right back to searching, ignoring the growls of her own stomach. A wave of shame and admiration washed over Nathan. Even while hungry herself, she still thought of others first, he realized, feeling smaller than ever. Gathering his courage, Nathan walked up to Ashley. She looked up and froze, shock flashing across her face before her expression turned guarded. Before she could say anything, Nathan spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "Ashley, I'm sorry. For everything. You were right about me, about who I am. I want to change. I want to understand. I want to see the world like you do. I don't want to be this person anymore. Your letter, it opened my eyes to how wrong I was. Please," he continued, voice steady. "Can I help you? Can you show me how to live like this, like you do?" Ashley studied him carefully, her face a mixture of exhaustion and doubt. "Why should I trust you, Nathan? You made it clear how little you thought of people like me." Her words stung, but Nathan didn't falter. Silently, he shrugged off his expensive coat and tossed it into the nearby trash. He rolled up his sleeves and kneeled down beside Ashley. "Because I'm ready to learn, to change. You showed me who I really am in that letter, and I don't want to be that person anymore. So let me into your world, Ashley. I want to truly understand." Ashley hesitated before nodding and slowly started explaining how to sort recyclables. Nathan watched closely, his hands struggling to copy her movements. As time passed, a deeper understanding began to take root. The work was tough, dirty, and often degrading, with strangers passing by, throwing judgmental glances their way. But Nathan didn't quit. He pushed through, eager to show his sincerity. After hours of effort, his hands were grimy and scratched, and his whole body ached. Yet something had shifted within him. Turning to Ashley, he spoke, his voice laced with newfound humility. "Ashley, I know I haven't earned your forgiveness or your trust, but if you're willing to give me a chance, I want to live a simpler life by your side. Not for the money or the status, just to learn how to be a better person like you. I want to make up for my mistakes and see life the way you do. Will you take me back? Not as a wealthy man, but as someone who's ready to change." Ashley looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions, surprise, doubt, and maybe, just maybe, a flicker of hope. She glanced at his rough, dirt-streaked hands, so different from the soft, manicured ones she remembered. She stayed silent for a moment, thinking over his words and actions. Then, with a deep sigh, she finally spoke. "Nathan, your words are nice, but talking is easy. Living this life, day in and day out, is something entirely. Do you really know what you're asking for?" Nathan nodded, his face showing a determination she hadn't seen before. "I know it won't be easy, Ashley, but I'm willing to face whatever comes. I want to grow. I want to be someone worthy of your respect." As their conversation went on, the night stretched longer. Ashley began gathering the recyclables they had collected. Nathan, remembering the last time he had been to her place, hesitantly asked, "Ashley, I know I don't have the right to ask, but could I go with you? I really want to see how you live, every single day." Ashley hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly nodded. "Okay, but don't expect any luxury. You've already seen what it's like over there." Together they set off on the all-too-familiar journey to the rundown building where Ashley lived. As they climbed the creaky stairs, Nathan began to notice things he hadn't paid attention to before. The shaky railing that wobbled under their touch, the damp spots creeping up the walls, and the overall wear of the place. Each step seemed to humble him a little more, reminding him how different his life had been from Ashley's. When they entered the small, cramped apartment, Ashley's grandmother looked up from her worn-out armchair with a surprised expression. She seemed healthier than the last time Nathan had visited, but the lines of struggle were still etched in her face. "Well, I didn't expect to see you here again, young man," she said with a curious tone, her voice steady but filled with an unspoken question. Nathan felt a deep sense of shame wash over him as memories of his last visit flooded back, his arrogance, his dismissiveness. He offered a small, respectful smile. "Good evening, ma'am. I came to learn." Ashley quickly explained the situation to her grandmother, telling her about the wedding and all that had transpired, which left her grandmother visibly shocked. Nathan stood there, feeling awkward under the weight of both women's gazes. The apartment seemed even smaller than he remembered, with every piece of furniture and every trinket telling a story of resilience and hardship. "He can sleep on the couch. It's not much, but it's all we've got," Ashley said, pointing to the threadbare piece of furniture that Nathan vaguely recalled. The couch looked worn, but clean, with sheets that had been patched up countless times. As Ashley began preparing the bed for him, Nathan felt a pang of guilt. He offered to help with whatever chores needed to be done, wanting to show that he was willing to pitch in, even though he still felt out of place. Later, lying on the narrow, uncomfortable couch, Nathan couldn't help but reflect on how drastically his life had shifted in just a short time. Only the sporadic sounds of the city outside and the creaks of the aging building broke the silence inside the apartment. It was a world so far removed from his own, one of privilege and comfort. But in this modest space, there was something he had never known before. "Ashley," he whispered into the darkness, sure that she couldn't hear him. "I know I've said this before, but I want you to know I mean it, this time. I have a long way to go, but I'll work hard every day to become a better person. I want to see the world the way you do and to help others the way you do. No matter how long it takes, I'll prove that I can change." In the next room, Ashley listened quietly. She didn't respond right away, but in the stillness of the night, her expression softened. That night in the modest apartment that Nathan had once looked down upon, something shifted between him and Ashley. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the start of a mutual understanding, a shared respect that, with time and effort, could grow into something more profound. Over the next few months, Nathan fully embraced his new life, standing beside Ashley with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. What had begun as a humbling experience evolved into a deeply personal journey of self-discovery and redemption. Nathan learned to savor the small things, the joy of a simple, home-cooked meal shared together, the pride in completing a day's hard work, and the warmth that comes from forming real, honest human connections. For Ashley, who had been skeptical of Nathan's intentions at first, the transformation she saw in him was undeniable. Ashley, with her practical wisdom, taught Nathan how to manage money smartly, to take pleasure in the simple things, and how to become more involved in the community around them. Together they expanded the recycling project, not just as a business, but as a way to provide jobs to those in need and to raise environmental awareness in the community. Ashley's grandmother, now healthy and full of energy, became a central figure in Nathan's life. Her life stories, full of resilience and wisdom, gave Nathan a clearer sense of what it means to persevere and show compassion. She often joked that Nathan was like the grandson she never had, and for Nathan, she filled the void of family affection he had longed for, but never quite experienced. Meanwhile, Lawrence, Nathan's father, witnessed his son's growth and began his own journey of reflection and self-discovery, realizing the profound changes taking place not only in his son, but in himself as well. He made the decision to fully engage himself in his son's social initiatives as a result of Nathan's renewed commitment to his family and community. The father-son bond, once marked by distance and indifference, evolved into a powerful partnership. Together, they worked to uplift their neighborhood and beyond, uniting their talents to create lasting change. Nathan's sharp business acumen was redirected towards turning that wealth into a catalyst for positive impact. He launched a foundation aimed at transforming the lives of those in underserved communities, focusing on building affordable housing, expanding access to education, and creating job opportunities. What once stood as a symbol of corporate ambition and greed was now celebrated as a beacon of social responsibility, earning respect and admiration from those it served. A year after that unforgettable wedding day, Nathan and Ashley now chose to renew their vows. This time, it was a heartfelt, intimate ceremony held at the very community center they had helped construct. Lawrence, filled with emotion, proudly walked Ashley down the aisle, while her grandmother sat nearby, wiping tears of joy from her eyes. The simplicity of the ceremony reflected the depth of their love and the life they had built. In the years that followed, Nathan and Ashley led a modest yet deeply fulfilling life of love and generosity. They were blessed with 2 children, whom they raised with the values of humility, hard work, and empathy. The children grew up understanding that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the kindness and compassion one shows to others. Under Nathan and Ashley's ongoing efforts and the foundation's support, their community thrived, becoming a testament to the couple's enduring dedication and love. New parks were established, schools underwent significant renovations, and job training programs opened up countless new opportunities for the community. Nathan and Ashley quickly became beloved and well-known figures, always ready to lend a listening ear, extend a helping hand, and inspire those around them. Their dedication to bettering the lives of others was undeniable. Lawrence decided to make a deeper connection with his family. He found solace and a renewed sense of purpose by actively participating in local community projects and embracing his role as a devoted grandfather. Ashley's grandmother, a source of endless wisdom and affection, naturally became the heart of the family. Her guidance and love were constant reminders of the importance of family bonds. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan surprised Ashley with an extraordinary gift. He presented her with the deed to a newly established recycling and environmental education center, named in honor of her beloved grandmother. The center not only created meaningful employment opportunities for many, but also served as a beacon of sustainability, becoming a model for the entire city. As Nathan reflected on his journey, he realized that the true wealth in life was not in the material possessions he had once so highly valued, but in the countless lives he and Ashley had touched, the positive changes they had helped bring about, and the enduring love they had cultivated. He finally understood that the lesson his father had tried to impart years ago wasn't about losing his fortune. It was about discovering something infinitely more valuable, the lasting impact of compassion, community, and family. As the golden hues of the setting sun bathed the city in a soft glow, Nathan and Ashley sat on the porch of their cozy suburban home, fingers intertwined, silently soaking in the joy of the moment. Their children's laughter echoed in the yard as they played without a care in the world. The foundation they had once built, which started as a symbol of status and financial power, had evolved into something far more meaningful, a symbol of hope, kindness, and transformation. For Nathan, this was the fulfillment he never knew he craved, a happy ending that surpassed every dream he had once chased. It wasn't the wealth, the accolades, or the influence that mattered now. It was this life of purpose, filled with love and genuine connection. He wouldn't trade it for anything. If this story touched your heart, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support drives us to continue sharing heartfelt stories with you almost every day. Don't miss the next unexpected tale that's already on its way. We truly appreciate having you here with us. Feel free to click on the links currently displayed on your screen. We've handpicked a special selection of stories that are sure to move and entertain you. We'll see you there.